Let me read this to you. I mean, just stay with me for a bit. Bear with me. Do people really think that a stay-at-home mum is really on equal footing with a woman who works and takes care of herself? There's no way those two things are the same. It's hard for me to believe it's not just verbally placating those people. Blah, blah. Having kids and getting married are considered life milestones. We have baby showers and wedding parties. Why? She says, this is just getting knocked up. But it goes on and on. Have you heard about this blogger in the United States? Not, by the way, an editor at the Calgary Herald. The poor woman of the same name has been inundated with hatred. This is a very hateful woman, but does she, I suppose, embody the new feminism? Andrea Mrozek, Institute of Marriage and Family Canada, joins us now from Ottawa. Andrea, when did you first hear about this?
Oh, I guess a couple of days through the blogosphere and a lot of the reaction to it as well.
I mean, was she trying just to get publicity? If so, it succeeded. I think actually she really believes it.
I think she actually believes it as well. What we have here is two things coming together. She's very, very ignorant, and she's very, very mean, which is a bad combination. But I would suggest to you, Michael, that I don't think that what she's saying is that far off from what a lot of people feel. Those women who do choose to stay home with their families face a lot of animosity, a lot of questions, a lot of ridiculous questions along the lines of, what do you actually do all day? And that's something that stay-at-home moms face quite often. Now, people can be much more kind about it. They can have a listening ear. They don't need to be quite as petty, mean, and belligerent as this particular young blogger is. But I think these things, this sentiment that stay-at-home moms are actually wasting their time, it lies not too far below the surface for a great many women and men today.
Well, this is the sharp and, I should say, rather mean end of this ideology. But if we look at government policy, this notion that daycare is always preferable to raising children at home, get them out of the house as early as possible, even that there aren't enough women MPs, well, that might or might not be true. But I've said in the past that perhaps raising a child is more important than just being a sheep in Parliament and saying yes to your party leader. And people thought I was being terribly old-fashioned by saying that. I think I've just been quite realistic.
Well, and there's definitely trends in public policy that encourage women out of the home. I think there are many women, particularly in the younger years. We have polls that show this. They want to be home, but instead they're told that's a waste of time. And just on a personal level, I was certainly told some of the things that this blogger wrote about around the idea that marriage just happens, kids just happen, they're so easy, they raise themselves. I certainly lived in that zone for a while. I'm not as mean as this woman is, but I certainly know a little bit of what it looks like to be as ignorant as she is. Today, at an older age, and yet a working woman without children, I would say women who are stay-at-home mothers are not on equal footing with working women, because what they are doing is far more difficult and far more important.
It's a choice issue, isn't it? Because if women are forced to stay at home, and there was a time when a woman who wanted to go out and work was thought of as being my golly, a loose woman, someone who'd lost her moral path.
That's absolutely wrong, yeah.
Yeah, of course. But today there are women, well, my wife would be an example of degrees all over the place, doctoral level and so on, who decide that they would like to raise the children at home. Maybe their husbands, who once had a full head of hair, are pulling their hair out saying, can we manage? But it's liberating and liberated for those men to say to their wives, it's up to you. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You do what you want to do.
Yeah, and so we need to look at the historical trend and overcoming any history where it was not possible for women to make the choices they want to make. I'm concerned today that the pendulum has swung in a different direction, that public policy has created a world in which it is very difficult for a woman or a man to decide they want to stay home with the kids. But I just want to, on that note, say, please note the irony that when a man stays home with his family, we applaud, we think it's wonderful, and it's fully worthwhile. But when a woman makes that choice, understanding, of course, that kids don't raise themselves in any capacity, suddenly we denigrate that and say she's a throwback to the Leave It to Beaver days. So there ought to be free choice in all regards. Public policy needs to be completely neutral. Families need lower taxes. They need to be able to make these choices. And the key there is choices, and be respectful of those choices, which this young woman clearly has not yet learned.
That's a very good point. I mean, today, the guy who has a sort of blue corduroy snuggly permanently around him, wears sandals and an NDP sticker, and raises a child. I mean, he is the model man. But let's change subject a bit. It is related to a degree. Abortion debate may return as Health Canada weighs the RU 486 approval. Now, the abortion issue, it's not so much the specifics I want to discuss. It's the future of conservatism. You're in Ottawa, you know the Conservative movement. Is the Conservative Party, the Conservative movement in this country ever going to allow or encourage a genuine debate about the abortion issue?
Well, the Conservative movement is a different question from our current Prime Minister, and I have long been of the opinion that our current Prime Minister will never entertain any debate of any kind on the subject of abortion. I believe that the debate around abortion has never died. It exists even to a small degree within liberal circles, and so within the Conservative movement, that has never gone away, and it will continue. It will be there until this issue is addressed fully in a meaningful way in Parliament. So certainly the Conservative movement will entertain that question and has been entertaining it. It's simply we have a Prime Minister now who is putting a lid on that kind of debate.
Yeah, I think you've summed that up rather well. And this is not the same-sex marriage issue. I mean, I think that is dead as an issue. People have their views, but I don't believe that's ever going to be reopened in Parliament. But the abortion issue, when we have gender-selected abortion, which a lot of women have become active about, we think of the race issue, the number of black and brown people in the world who are targeted for abortion, handicap and disability. It's not really, it doesn't have to be a Conservative issue. The NDP won't touch it now, but as you say, there used to be many Liberal MPs who were pro-life. Not so many now. Not so many now,
that's true, but there aren't that many Liberal MPs as there once were sitting. So, and I feel there's hope for the NDP caucus as well.
Do you?
Certainly there's a lot of room to move. I'm a pro-life woman, and I speak on behalf of all the pro-life women I know. The movement of pro-lifers is largely dominated by women to such an extent that I wish more men would join the ranks. But I certainly think there's room in changing and evolving attitudes on that issue. A lot of sympathy in many regards for pro-lifers, maybe not in the media and not on Parliament Hill with the current Prime Minister, but a lot of sympathy, and I believe that sympathy is growing.
But do you seriously believe that the NDP, which is a very controlled party, it controls its left as well as its less left-wing wing, you really believe they would ever allow the abortion issue to be raised within their caucus?
Okay, that might be a little bit Pollyanna, but my point was when the Orange Crush came in, there were some new MPs that came in under the NDP banner who actually didn't have a sweet clue about politics in general and had barely been present in their ridings. And I feel like that kind of a group of NDP MPs who are not as ideological are probably also the kind that you could approach and say, look, here's some injustices happening in regards to sex selection abortion, in regards to late-term abortions. And I don't know that they would necessarily respond with the party line, but perhaps it's a bit of a Pollyanna-type attitude to say that they would all told buy into something different. The roots of the NDP, though, you know, I mean, the Tommy Douglas type of NDP, if they ever returned to that, I would see a great deal of hope.
Well, you're not being Pollyanna, you're being wonderful and hopeful. I'm just a tired old pessimist. Andrea, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.